Splashcreen. Wake up, motherfucker.
Alrighty, what's up, guys? What's up? March 5th, 2026. All right, let's get to it. Let's get to it. Didn't look like there was anything too interesting today, so that's why I didn't show up in the morning. I'm like, well, this looks boring. Oil's going up as expected, but nothing else is really doing anything. We had this shakeout here, move here. Got that? Yeah, you tickled that box again, and then you went back down. All right, and then we ended up for some reason. I don't know. Was there news? No clue. No clue. All right, but let's just focus on what we want to do for semiconductors, okay, and IGV. So I kind of alluded to the fact that maybe we're just going to keep going sideways into March 20th, Iranian New Year, Nowruz. That's probably it. It also coincides with the quarterly options expiration date. So possibly that's what's going to happen. A lot of volume on the SPY, though, for that green candle. So does that mean anything? What I'm going to do today, since we don't have anything really to discuss, is the auction market theory. I'm going to discuss that, okay? Continue on discussing that. And I'm going to use the volume profile. All right? That is going to be what we're going to discuss. And a little bit of oil stuff. We're going to look at the ETFs in more detail. I think we're going to do that. Okay, so let's see here. XOP did well. All right, so up maybe 2% there. I did see IGV, so the software sector, up about, it was close to 3% at one point before pulling back a little bit. So that's strong. And then you look at semiconductors here. You tickle that bottom of that box, and then you fall through. A lot of volume was coming in the last 2 days. And this is your result. You go back down, and we end up here. This is not giving me confidence, all right? So that means IGV's got to work really hard. If this thing is going to puke in the coming 2 weeks, we'll have to see. So Broadcom did report earnings, so it went up, but AVGO. But the problem is we did not break this blue line, so not much excitement there. Okay, it did well, but we're far, far below from the all-time highs. We're still just tickling this resistance level. Okay, so that's not going to help us. And we see NVIDIA ain't going to help us either. We already had earnings for NVIDIA. It's just tickling this red line. So, I mean, I think none of these earnings are going to help the overall sector. We see weakness too because CN reported earnings. What did that do? Well, we're down. We were down nearly about 17% at one point. And this thing pulled down everybody else in the area. So optical communications, all that, interconnections. Lumentum, which was a leader, not going to continue, I guess. What's the other one? Coherent. How about that one? Nope. Okay. Anything else? How about, what's the other big boy? Well, AOI is not a big boy, but I talked about it. All right. So this one was the happiest one. And it's just goofing around at 100. Is it going to break out? I don't know. But all this stuff doesn't look good, right? But IGV looks good. IGV looks good. I mean, if you think the Nasdaq is going to get saved, then your hopes are on IGV software. So all the beaten down software names. So let's see. We got Veev. Veev did okay for earnings for a little bit. Then it pulled back. Well, okay. How about Palantir? Oh, well, maybe it's going to go to 160 next week. Hopefully the weekend doesn't have anything bad. Okay. What other ones? CrowdStrike reported earnings, right? How did CrowdStrike do? Okay, it's doing good. It's recovered this big drop here. All right. So CrowdStrike, CRWD. How about Microsoft? Microsoft. Okay, kind of okay-ish. All right. How about Oracle? Supposedly reports earnings next week. Okay, well, let's see. We got the date, Tuesday. Okay, we officially have a date now, Tuesday after the close. Yeah, Real pump, oil pump, everything pump. Yes. So we're going to discuss oil in more detail, okay, as we continue. But since you're here, Eric W., I am going to discuss auction market theory because there's nothing else to discuss today. Really boring today. I did a small trade shorting both Bitcoin and semiconductors. So this drop was nice. So I got something today, but I usually try to get everything done by the first half to 1 hour. So it took a while for this thing to happen. Okay, it was pretty much noon when this thing. So it looks like it was some news, huh? It must have been some news. I don't care. Whatever it is, it's noise. All of this is noise. So, are you going to tell me based on earnings, we have all the earnings we need. We only have one big semiconductor earnings left. It's Micron. That's it. CT was trying to explain options. He used to options trade. So I know that about his history. So he used to trade options before. I don't know why he doesn't do it anymore. He might still do it, He could take all those super chats and cash apps you give him, and he could still be trading on the side. But I told him, I think one time when he was on panel with Grace and her brother, one of her brothers, I forgot which one. It was probably it wasn't the art one, right? John. It wasn't John. It was the other one. And then they were talking about like trading and shit. Yeah, it's too complicated. It's yeah. Some people can do it though. It's like I recommend, like, if you're young, you should definitely see if you can do it. If you're old like me, I grew up just doing buy and hold investing. So by the time I wanted to do trading, I was just like, bro, I have so much money that I could just buy a lot of shares and get like my income that way, Like options, the good thing about it is that you need very little bits of money to get. So you could spend $100 on a bet, right, using options and get 1,000. You know what I mean? But if you don't know what you're doing, eventually you just blow up your account. Like you can grow that 100 to like a few thousand, and then all of a sudden you screw up and then you start losing, and then you get mad. And that's what happened in COVID. Like during COVID, it was so easy for everyone just to go in one direction. Yeah. Or like betting. Yeah, if you look at Polymarket, that's essentially what options are. You are betting on something, doing something at a certain time in a certain way. And so you could think of it like that. Like I bet that this stock will go to this price with very low volatility before this date. Kind of bet, right? So it's multi-dimensional that way. If you know if most people once they figure out how to trade options, they stick to a certain way of doing it. Like they won't touch anything else unless you're a brainiac. If you're really curious about options, there's a really crazy guy out there. Like he's really smart. Man, what's his name? It's a Turkish guy. Shem Carson, something like that. Okay. Yeah. Look up this guy. Look up Shem. I don't know how to pronounce his Turkish name. It's Shem Carson. I mean, if you know how to do it, like I don't want to start doing this. Like, once you learn the basics that I teach you, you can go ahead and then because once you start learning to read charts, it shouldn't be too hard to like go like, oh, okay, I see the pattern here. This stock moves this way, or like this this is how I should bet when I know there's volatility going to increase. Then I'll bet on volatility. Then I only bet on volatility, kind of thing. Uh, like let's say this part here of SOXX. Let me take away this thing. Like here, you have low volatility, maybe low-ish volatility. I know volatility is going to increase, so I'll bet on volatility. I don't care which direction it goes, as long as it goes big in one direction, I'll make money. And then you could construct an option trade to go that way, something like that. I think that's how you could do it. Yeah. But you have to just learn the mechanics of it. So it's a slightly more levers to figure out. And so you'll have to do some practice. You know what I mean? Like you can practice. Most people like when Dennison was on John Galt's, he was telling people, well, this is how I did it. I just jumped in and practiced. I just lost some money until I stopped losing money. And then, I figured it out. Some people like learn that way. I'm not saying that's wrong or right. Some people, they spend all their days reading the big textbooks on options. I have a chart that I could give you too. Maybe later I'll show it. I have a big cheat sheet on options. Yeah, Iron Condor. That's what it is. So I have a big cheat sheet. And then you can print it out high resolution and stick it on your wall. And then you can just stare at it all day. Be like, oh, I'm doing this one. I'm doing this option strategy. I'm doing this one. Yeah. You can do that. So you can practice, if you want to do it. But I never needed to, so that's why I didn't want to. I'm just once you get so old and you just don't care anymore. I just stopped wanting to learn anything. It's just like, fuck, man. I have to learn something again. If I learned it earlier, but the problem is when I was young, options really weren't that popular still. You have to remember, options only got really introduced in the late 70s. And then it kind of started getting popular in the 80s to 90s, but not really. And then when you went into the aughts and 2010s and more people started learning about it, it became more and more popular. And when it gets more popular, the market becomes more liquid. That's the other problem with options too. You might not be able to find a buyer or seller of the options you want because nobody wants to bet against you. It's like, I know this is going to happen, but so does everyone else. So you're not going to get a good price on that option. And then it's not worth it then, right? If everybody knows what you know. So yeah. For the most part, people will just use options like insurance. That's what it's supposed to be. I own the shares and I know something's going to happen. I use options to protect myself from something. Like, let's say I want to hold semiconductors for the next 2 to 3 years. I know this year is not going to be good for semiconductors. I just buy insurance using options. I just buy a bunch of puts or sell a bunch of calls and be like, I protect myself. That's it. I learn by doing, so I get it, but don't bet on anything. Yeah, that's the problem with it. Then there's paper trading too, which is kind of not really that ideal because paper trades it doesn't capture your psychology. If you're trading something that is not real money, your thinking is a bit different, isn't it? So it might give you false confidence when you do the real thing. Yeah. Especially when the market moves quickly, it might freak you out. Okay. Anyway, ASTS earnings already had earnings and then pulled back. Okay, so nothing there. I'm staying away from that one. I mentioned that. AMPX is another one that I've been looking at. What is this done? This thing does some cloud thing or battery. I think it's a battery technology stock. So, okay, AMPX from the long-term chart looks good. It looks like it's ready to pop. So it was going up before earnings, and then after earnings, it went up again. So overall, this week is 38%. Very volatile, but I like the way it's looking here. You see the 18 is kissing the 40, and we're bouncing off here. We're still having green. I think this could shoot up. So, and I did say that a lot of battery technology stocks could do well going forward. What's the other one? I put that in the boomer portfolio. Freaking hell. Let me see. Let me check. I had it here. Enphase. They help servicing batteries and solar cells and stuff like that. So watch Enphase, ENPH, and now I'm gonna add AMPX to my list of quote unquote green energy stocks that I think will do well this year. Okay. Don't be scared now, but since it's green energy, but you know. Kroger did well. Okay, 5%. So people are still going to groceries, and this thing is handling the inflation, tariffs, and all that stuff pretty well. That's about it. Okta is a cloud computing stock. I think it's in San Francisco. Still stuck in this range. Very, I don't know. GoPro. For some reason, GoPro yesterday before the close, it started pumping, but I guess someone was just goofing off and trapping people because after the earnings this morning, well, went back down. So, oh well, nothing there then. This thing looks like it's gonna suck. Okay, that's it. Nothing important. We got to worry about Oracle next week. That's the only thing we got to worry about, and maybe more Iran stuff. Okay, so this is what I'm going to talk about. Let me turn on the music. This is what I want to talk about. I want to talk about the auction market theory. We were doing this, because, and Eric also was asking, is there a better way to quantify the volume? If there's a lot of volume, there's a lot of effort. How do I know? Can you give me a number, not just looking at the picture? Okay, let me just play this one. Okay. So, if you were using TradingView, you can get this. There's something called fixed range volume profile. Okay, you see on the left there. Now, if you use something else, you should be able to find it. I think most modern charting programs will give you this now. All right. And what this does is it actually measures all the little volume over here. Okay. And then creates this graph you see on the side. Okay. Going horizontal, vertically. Okay. So let me just start from scratch. Let me delete this. Okay, let me delete this. Okay. Now you just see a plain chart. This is a plain chart. Okay. And now I use this tool. I say, let's measure the volume from this point all the way to the end today. Okay. And this area was the last high, the February last year, before like all the tariff stuff crashed everything. So I'm going to draw it all the way to here, and then it draws this for me. And what this says is, you see the top blue line and the bottom blue line? Statistically, this is your kind of like your bell curve, okay? This is your distribution. Obviously, it doesn't look like a bell curve. All right, but it is a distribution of some sort. And so everything outside this top and bottom blue area, okay, is going to be the leftovers, like the low probability. Everything inside is the 68% zone. All right. And then you see this red part. This is the peak. So this is where the fair value price is. This is where price wants to be right now. And since we had so much volume recently over here, that's why it shifted all the way up to the top. So the S&P 500 doesn't want to go much further than 682. So that's the fair value price. That's why it's magnetized to that level. If you go into it, you see we're just going up and down next to it. We've been doing this since November. Pretty much. And I'm using this volume candles over here. You see that? So volume candles. So this is not bars like this. This is not normal candles like that. This is volume candles. What it does is it makes the bigger volume have fatter candlesticks. So this is a good way to visually see it. You see, so if you have a lot of volume, you see they get fatter. Okay, now let me go to the semiconductors. This is more apparent. So with this tool here, so I used the volume candles. I see that this area has a lot of volume. There's a lot of volume coming in here, just from this bar all the way to this bar, and even this bar. So even this bar here, right? This one here. So make sure you understand. This one here, you see that one? Even though it's not very long, it's very important because there was a ton of volume going here. And what happened? There was nothing. And that's why today I shorted it. So today at the open, you see, like you had this red, green, and then you had this red combined. That's a lot of volume yesterday. And then today, with this weak ass bar, it went nowhere. So you had two bars here covering a span of about 3 hours, and it was doing nothing. We were going nowhere. So I just said, like, I'll just short it. Okay, that's the only day trade I'll do today. So I shorted semiconductors again here, and then it went straight down, and then I got out. It went straight down to the bottom. Of course, whatever happened just before close, 1 hour into the close, it recovered. I don't know what that was. I don't really care. But what this tells me overall, combined, this whole picture, is that if the next time this thing decides to not be able to get above 341 here, this bottom blue line, getting back into the 68% area here, okay, that's it. We're done. We're done. It's not getting back into the normal distribution. It's not getting back into here. 354 is apparently the fair price of this SOXX ETF. If it's not doing that, then guess what? We're going back down, 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 down. And then I'll have to draw another distribution over here. So basically, if this can't make it here, then the next stop is we're going to go down to 302. So now you see, right? This is actual, like, quantitative analysis. I'm not just looking at the lines and going like, oh, there's a magic line over here, there's a moving average over there. No, there's no technical analysis in that sense. The only thing we're doing is we're looking at volume, we look at the profile, and we generate this graph. Okay, this is the problem though. How do you know this volume data is good? That's my only question. All right, so I think a lot of people, they will tell you to subscribe to their service because they apparently have better volume data or more accurate data. And this will improve your chances of understanding how the market wants to go. All right. I think that's what it is. Most people can do this like I'm doing here with this free data. This data is free. It comes from the BATS service, BATS service. Is it what you call standard deviation movement? Yeah, that's right. So this is a standard deviation only between 301 and 364. That's the standard deviation for that range between November and here. Now, there's another thing though, is that you have options market. I don't consider the options market doing this. The options market can control what this price is doing too. If I don't have data from the options market and see where the options wants to pin it over here, pin it over there, I don't see it here. That's another problem with this. This is limited in what I can see. This is good, but this is not good enough, right? So that's something you have to consider when you're doing this. But for now, you know, you can use it. I see no problem with it. I can see the same thing that I would do with technical analysis anyway. I see a big red bar. I see this. I know that there's support here somewhere, and then I see it's verified by the volume profile. See? So you can trade with this. What people would do is that, like, every week, they could do it every week and every quarter. They could say, like, okay, starting with a new quarter, like here, first day of January over here, I do a quarterly one, right? This is for the quarter. And then after that, I go to the week. So I start on Monday. Once we start Monday, I draw a new one. Okay. And then for the previous week, I draw it for the previous week. Right. Okay. Let's see. I think right here. Okay. Holiday. And then go from here. See? So when I see this from previous week and then Monday we opened like this, we went to the bottom and we went back up. You see it couldn't make it back to the old fair value price of 354, and then we just crashed right down. Then I know we have a new range here. So yeah, you can do it like that. It's no problem in understanding it that way. Yeah, jumping from one bell to another. That's right. So I'm going to read the rest of the article now. So I think visually you understand what I'm trying to tell you. Now I can go back and read the article, continue from where I left off, and now you understand it fully together that way. Okay. And if you go Google auction market theory volume profile, you'll see the technical terms for it. The point of control, that was like the red line, that was the fair value price. The value area high and low, that was the two blue lines at the bottom and the top. Okay, the bottom and the top. And that gives you the value area, which is typically 68% or one standard deviation of volume traded, like you said, Eric. So now you understand, right? That's how you understand it. Perfect. So it's not hard to understand. And then we can read this article again with that understanding. So now you have a fuller picture. Okay, where did I leave off here? Practical example. I think I read this part here. So I think this is what he was trying to do, trying to explain to you with these little bell curves here. Like this is a range, and we jump to the next range, and we jump down to another new range. But I don't think this picture really does it justice, like the way I showed you with the charts over there. Okay, blah 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 blah. Okay, let me just go here. Let me just start from here. Let me go read drink something here. My mouth is getting dry. Okay. I earlier mentioned that the longer I trade, the less I care about technical analysis. If there is something I care about even less, it is all of these narratives. What every market does is facilitate trade, and market participants negotiate prices between balanced and imbalanced values. Our auction market theory defines an area where 68% of the volume has traded as a value area. Inside the value area is also a point of control. This is the level where the market traded the most volume or spent the most time. So I showed you all of this. All right. Now you get it. Now this sentence makes more sense, because when I first read you this sentence, you're probably scratching your head going like, oh, okay. A market profile represents the value area and point of control based on time. A volume profile represents the value area and point of control based on volume. That's what we saw there, based on volume. This advertising mechanism and price, always seeking value, can be represented in the image below. Efficient market, okay, that means when the price just zigzags or close to where the fair value is, and we've been seeing that at the S&P 500, right? We've been very tightly going around 6,800, and we haven't deviated too far yet, but it's coming. Demand exceeds supply, or supply exceeds demand, and then we get an imbalance, and that's when we make our money. Because we bet in a direction, and then we go bet on it, and that's how we get our money. So contraction becomes expansion. So then once we go far up, or down, we have to find the new place where people want to fight it out, where the new fair market value is. So if you look at Bitcoin, right, it started crashing maybe about a month and a half ago, from 90,000. 80 to 90,000, and now we're just goofing around between 60 and 70,000. So that's what happened. So now we're just trying to figure out where that is going to end up. Value area and point of control. Auction market theory defines an area where 68% of the volume has traded as a value area. Inside the value area is also a volume point of control. Isn't this a repeat of this thing? What the heck? Oh man, or I already read this. Okay, whatever. I'm pretty sure I just read this, didn't I? Come on. Both are tools that present us with value areas in a non-subjective way, which is one of the greatest advantages over hand-drawn support and resistance levels. Okay. So, yeah, I think we covered a bit of this already. You see that? It's just a little bit different. They're drawn a little bit different over here, but we saw that blue area with 2 blue lines. That's what that is. And the red line is the point of control, POC. So now we just keep moving, bouncing between ranges, right? We go to a new range. We jump to a new range. All right. Okay, how does that help us here? Key components of AMT. There are 3 components of auction market theory. Price advertises opportunity in the market. When price moves away from value, it is advertising to potential participants that there may be an opportunity. If an underlying drops significantly below its established fair value, that low price is essentially advertising to buyers that there might be a bargain available. Time regulates price opportunity. The longer the market spends at a certain price level, the more accepted that price becomes. Time validates or invalidates the price discovery process. Volume measures the success or failure of the auction. Volume represents the interaction of market participants at different levels. From these 3 components, volume is arguably the most important in the current age of electronic trading. By looking at volume, we can see where other market participants were interested in doing business, which can significantly help us make more educated trading decisions. To fully understand how markets behave, we have to understand the context of a given market, because there are 2 types of auction environments. Balanced markets, okay? In a balanced market, buyers and sellers agree on prices and they are willing to buy and sell at current levels. They perceive these prices as fair value. A balanced market is usually represented by lower volatility. Okay. So I mentioned contraction, expansion. Okay, let me get back to the chart. How about this? So you can see this with technical analysis. This is what you can see. Let me try to find an example. How about that? So let's go back to here, and let me eliminate this. No, not this one. Come on. I want to minimize this, not expand this. Let me shrink this. So focus on this blue, red, and green here. Okay. So let me find a stock that will work good for this example. Which one should I use? Dollar? How about the dollar? Can I use this one? No, I can't use this one. This one's a little bit too active. How about silver? Silver should be good on the longer time scale. So I don't know if you guys saw me play the dumb video where that boomer sold silver at around 32 to 35, just before we had this big move up. Now, let's just look at this. Let's just look at this. So when you just look at this, okay, low volatility. When you have low volatility, the ADX, this is an ADX, okay, indicator. So you can look it up. Let me find what ADX stands for again. I forgot what it stands for. Okay, look. Okay, here you go. Look it up, guys. Okay, I'll put it in chat. Here, ADX, average directional index. So that's the blue line. All right, that's the blue line. Okay, average directional index. And then the green and red are directional index. It's just a directional index. So then green and red are fighting each other, but they're very weak like they don't have a lot of strength either way. The blue line will be very low. So the blue line will stay below this gray zone, which I put at 20 to 25. Okay, so this when it's staying mostly below this zone here, then there's very little activity. But that's good. That's good, because that means that something's about to happen eventually. All right, we want low volatility, because when you stay very long and have very low volatility, eventually you'll have very high volatility. Hopefully that means silver is going to go up if I bet long. If I bet short, hopefully silver is going to crash and burn. Okay, it doesn't tell me what it's going to do, but it does tell me that the longer it stays low volatility, having this blue line stay down here longer and longer, that means something's about to happen, which is great. Okay, because what happened here before in 2023, something did happen, but it was only temporary. So let me just get the thing right back here. Let me get that back to normal. Okay, so right here we had like zigzag, and then in 2024 we had a burst of activity, but it was short-lived. We only went from like an average of $23 per troy ounce on silver, and we got to 30s. But once we got to the 30s, the 30 area, we started going sideways again, right? So that guy was probably thinking like, oh man, silver is doing nothing again. It's boring, right? He probably bought it in like the 10s or 15s right here. Maybe even during COVID, right? So he could get it at 10 and 15. But by the time it got to 30, he probably was thinking like, well, maybe I could buy something else. I'll sell my silver here. But guess what? We went back into this trading range where it was boring, and you might give it some chance. Come on, it's not dropping back to 20 at least. It's just zigzag. Eventually, maybe he got scared over here in March, right, in April, and it just like once it went to do this thing, it was just like, come on, why is it so weak? Maybe he was looking at gold too, because gold was performing overall better than silver during that same time. So maybe he thought like, well, silver, I could sell silver and buy gold instead. But that was a mistake, wasn't it? Because going sideways longer meant that when silver finally explodes, it's going to do a lot better than gold, didn't it? So by the time it started running, and then we got to November, boom, we got that huge push up. So yeah, I think that's the thing you have to do. You have to consider. There's contraction, expansion. You always see this all the time. What's another stock that did this? Deere, right? Deere, or XOP. XOP is also another one. Not XOP. I mean XOM. So Exxon Mobil. So very boring stock from 2022 all the way into December, right? Only when New Year's happened, we had this explosion of activity. So for the most part, boring, very boring. Okay, so because everybody agreed that the price of ExxonMobil was around $109, $110 a share. But now that there's disagreement, now we finally get to go up, right? And this was just before the Iran stuff, so it was already going up 2 months beforehand. I think there's a bigger play in oil, not just because of Iran, but because of a lot of structural changes that's been happening, especially when Trump went after Venezuela and all this other stuff. There's big changes coming for the crude oil market, and as well as China's demand for energy will increase because they've been buying a lot of barrels for reserve purposes. So hopefully you understand a little bit. That's why I don't talk about this indicator too much, but like you can just see it with the chart. Like, let me just take away these lines, right? Let's see, can I just take away all this stuff? Like, I can just take away all this stuff, like all this noise here. You just look at the chart. You could just look at the bear chart. You don't need to look at anything else, and you could go like, it's just gonna go sideways. And then here, all of a sudden, you see, let me draw something here. what's happening there? What's happening towards the end of this box? You see less and less and less activity. There's less volatility. Up here, there was like the price moved throughout this box, right? It was going up and down, and then all of a sudden it was shrinking into an apex. It was shrinking into a singular price of $117 per share, and then all of a sudden it broke out. So there was a contraction. There was even a smaller contraction phase toward the end there, and that's how you would know something's about to happen. Something about to happen. Pop, and it pops. So this is traditional technical analysis. So this thing says the same thing as like the auction market theory guy, right? So all I'm doing is that, like, because everybody can look at a picture, it's easier to analyze. That's it. It's not because I'm telling you to look at a cloud and go like, oh, I see a pattern, this is going to happen. No, it's because like there is a reason for this pattern to result in something else. There is volume and there's price and there's people betting in the market. They want to buy at a certain price. They all agree that it's a certain price. And eventually you see the bottom level here, it keeps creeping up while the top is like at 118. So people believe that it's at 118, and then people believe less that it should be below 118. And then all of a sudden, people believe that it should be above 118. So it's like a slow way of looking at the voting mechanism, and it goes pop. Yes, I agree that now everybody believes that it should be above $118 a share. But it took a while to get there, right? So it took about like what? April 2025 up until now, so pretty much 9 months it took. But overall it took like 4 years. Overall 4 years for people to finally say, yeah, I don't think this thing should be below $121. Okay, so that's it. That's what happened. All right. Yeah, I don't know. There's just too much information. I'll keep repeating. This is why I just do these things in the live streams, because I just look up something and then it jogs a memory in my mind. It goes like, oh, yeah, I see this pattern and that pattern. So when you actually have an interesting market like now, it makes it more fun and better for me to teach, because like I'm doing it on the fly. I didn't prepare any of this. I'm just looking at the article and it jogs my memory. Oh yeah, that thing or this thing or that thing. So, and it helps out too that, you know, you're learning it as we go. That's the way to do it. And the more I repeat something, the more you'll learn, right? That's how you learn. If I tell you once, you'll forget it. But if you keep seeing it over and over as I do this, you'll see it again and again and again, and then it'll stick in your mind, and then you'll do it when you're trading, and it'll become easy, second nature, and then that's it. It should be second nature. It should be muscle memory. Once you go actively invest or trade, you don't need to look up a book or find like, look up a cheat sheet or something. That's not gonna work, bro. It should be so easy for you after a while, and then you'll just do it secondhand. You don't need anybody to tell you what to do, because otherwise I have to like have something to text everyone, oh, do this, do that, but then you don't understand why I did it that way. If you don't have any understanding, it's not going to be useful, because that means you're fully dependent on me to tell you what to do, which is not good. This is not good. Yeah, which is a lot of trading services. They do it that way, which I don't like, because then you're dependent on me, and then I could charge you money for my trading service, right? Then it's like a drug. You're basically hooked on a trading service. Yeah. So that's not helpful at all. I'm not here to do that. Okay. Let's get back to the article. I think you understand. Let's take this away. All right, let's continue. Prices remain more or less the same, and the market are ranging. That's what we saw with silver and ExxonMobil. Thanks to market profile, volume profile, or V. Okay, we're going to discuss VWAP later. Okay, volume weighted average price. That's not wet ass pussy, okay? Don't be thinking that's V wet ass pussy. That is volume weighted average price, and we will discuss that some other time. Okay, and I told you about the guy's book, Brian Shannon. I think I mentioned his book. You can read up on him. He loves using VWAP. We can easily recognize fair value. It looks like the Gaussian bell-shaped curve. Okay. Imbalanced market. With new information coming to the market, whether fundamental or technical drivers, markets leave fair value and shift to an imbalanced state. The imbalance is the exact opposite of balance. There is a disagreement about fair value. One side of the market participants is more aggressive and the market trends. That's when you start making money. Just like silver started shooting up, and then ExxonMobil, right? Once it got above $118 a share, it just started shooting up. So the buying is more aggressive than the selling, and so that's what happens. And then we start shooting to a new range, and we're gonna wait until we find out where that new range is. But for now, we're gonna make money off of it. So I don't know where ExxonMobil will stop and go sideways again. Hopefully, a lot further up, so we can make money. All right. So I think this is what this graphic is trying to explain. Not very well, but yeah, you see Bitcoin ranging here, then moving to a new range, then going down to a new range, then going up to a new range. And, this is where we're at. We're at a range right here between 60 and 70. So he didn't draw this yet because this was at the beginning of this new range. And now we're waiting to see, well, is Bitcoin going to go back up somewhere or go back down to a new range or stay in this range for a few months? I don't know yet. Okay. Despite popular belief that markets always absolutely have to trend, markets are mostly balanced. This tendency can be especially observed in the options market by the fact that implied volatility, the market's expectation of future volatility, overstates realized volatility. Okay, so this might be a little tricky for some of you that don't do options, but yeah, there's a difference between implied volatility and realized volatility. There's something called the VIX index, VIX. VIX index, I think, is implied volatility. Let me double check that. So VIX. And then that's different from the actual volatility, right? So VIX, VIX is a 30-day forward looking implied volatility of the S&P 500. Okay, so let me see if there's like a realized volatility. I think there is something. Is there a realized volatility index? I swear there was. The CBOE made one. I'll have to look it up later. I used to know this stuff, but oh well, I forgot. It looks like somebody here knows too much. Somebody here knows too much here. That's above my pay grade. I can see why a lot of physicists get into finance. A lot of concepts translate well. Yeah, that's what Jim Simmons says. Jim Simmons used to have this quote. He said, like, I could teach finance to a physicist, but I can't teach physics to a finance person. Yeah. There's a lot of concepts that you can do because of modeling and all that stuff. Yeah, what's up, Kyle? Yeah. I'm glad you made it. Looks like we have like a smarty pants here. This guy knows too much here. All right. Let's see. Blah 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 blah. Okay, this is why selling structures like straddles or strangles. Okay, this is options talk. Is often a profitable thing to do until it is not, and you get run over by the market being imbalanced. So, yeah. So if you see, ExxonMobil stuck between a range, right? We could trade the options and say like, okay, I make money as long as ExxonMobil doesn't go below 98 and above 118, and then I make my money. And it works until it doesn't. Like, okay, yeah. While you obviously cannot predict the future, using tools to help you establish fair value can be extremely beneficial for having an idea of future market behavior. So auction market theory rules. Although auction market theory is not a trading strategy by itself, there are some rules that can be applied. Rule number 1, if the price accepts into the balance area, it is likely to revert to the opposite side. Price often retests the edge of the balance area before traveling to the opposite side. Price inside the balance is expected to reject the edges, and behavior is choppier. This is where most traders get chopped up trying to trade breakouts that never materialize. So these first 2 rules, very good rules. Don't mess with boy just Simons. Yeah, what's up on YouTube? I don't know, if the market is not that interesting, I just won't show up and say anything. If it is interesting, maybe I'll show up, or I'm just too busy trading or whatever. Yeah, it's hard to tell these days. AMD options were printing for me last year. Okay, we got an expert here. Yeah. If you got something, if you got a trade plan, you know what's going on. Yeah, do it. So the first 2 rules, I think this is good. This is a good example that comes up like with Bitcoin. So I can use Bitcoin for this one. All right, again. And then I'll show you. All right, I got it. So it's been in a range, right? It's been in a range. So I went from all this top from the 90s. So from the top of the drop into the bottom of the drop, you see. And then we go all the way out here. Okay, so we look at the volume profile. You see the top blue line and the bottom blue line. That's where most of the activity has been. So that's our 68% area. And then we just broke out yesterday. So the question you would have is like, is this fake? Is this not a true breakout? If this is not a true breakout, you short it. Well, that's what I did this morning. I was like, well, it looks pretty weak so far in the pre-market. So when the market opened, I just shorted MSTR, and then I just got out of it within a couple hours. So that's just like, boom, that's easy. Now we're just dancing here at the top, right, of this 68% area. So that's why I shorted it. You know, I mean, not because of this fair market value, whatever, blah, blah, blah. It's just because you could clearly see there's a range. I mean, if you look at MSTR, it's obvious there's a range. I don't need any of these things. I can just eliminate this, and you can see right away there's a very tight range, right? And then when it goes above it, you're like, well, this is the first time we went above it. What's the probability that it keeps going up like a rocket ship? Probably not high. So the next day it's like, okay, it looks pretty weak already at the open pre-market. So once it opened, I just said like short, and it just went down for the most of the day. So there you go. Just give me my 10%. Give me my 10%. That's it. All I need is 10%, man, per day, and I'll be cool. Per trade, I mean, I'll be cool. So that's all I do. And you guys, like Kyle with the option stuff, you definitely have more, better ideas of what to do. You're just like, oh, okay, there's a range here. I could trade. I could make every time it goes between this and this, because it was so perfect, right? Like this range was so beautiful. It's just like, man, it stayed there for so long. It was just like how many days between February 10th up until so 2 weeks, 3 weeks. 2 to 3 weeks of this. Only yesterday it went up. So that's a special case. Is it going to continue up? I don't know. I don't really care. I'm not thinking long term about this. I would have bought it if it went to the bottom, if it went back here for sure, and then said like, well, it's far away from this 68% area, right? Very far away. And if you look at Bitcoin, same thing. So if it stretches too far from where we are, then you'll buy anything below here that's far away, you'll buy, and then it'll just recover and try to get back to 66. That's the fair value right here, 66, 67,000. So That's it. YouTube channel is the same name. Give crack to me. Give crack to me. Same stuff. I don't know. You know, that's a good question about the risk reward. I've always struggled with that. I'm just not disciplined. I just take whatever opportunity looks good and I just do it, and then I move on to the next. I don't know. What do you think? You think a good one is 2 to 1? Most people just say 2 to 1, huh? I don't know. I don't know if that's even good. To me, it's like I'd rather figure out a way to compute some kind of probability. Like, if I see a certain pattern and it has these conditions alongside the pattern, that means I could say this is a 90% probability that this will occur, that I will risk. I would just, even though it looks way riskier, I'm just like, okay, I know it's going to work, then I'll do it, right? I was thinking 2 to 1. I think it depends on style. Yeah, I don't really day trade either. I mean, OPC Don was telling me to go watch this like million sub guy that does day trading all the time. I'm just like, oh my god, another channel to follow and watch. I don't know. Let's see. There's another style. Another dude out there that someone recommended to me, and I still haven't had a chance to watch this guy's stuff. He's called the Inner Circle Trader. I don't know if you know. So apparently he's popular too. There's a lot of these quote unquote traders that seem to be like very popular with people, but I haven't paid attention. I was never very Warrior Trader guy is a grifter. Oh yeah, because OPC Don's definitely not a expert at it, so I had a feeling like he might be played here. So oh yeah, I don't think he really understands. Anybody could go online and make themselves look really good, right? Okay. All right. I'll look into it anyway to see how he does it. How he does his little grift. But yeah, people just do scalping. That's basically what I did today, right? I just scalped this. I just scalped that. I think overall this range will become very nice, and there's a good chance that we could get back up to 100K, and it'll just surprise people and trap people up here, right? And then we dance around at 100K for like a couple more months, and then crash from August into October, November. So yeah, it'll trap people. I think this will eventually get back up. If this range keeps going like this, yeah, there's a lot of volume too. So I think this is very good opportunity for people to trade between these two areas. Alrighty, let's continue on. Oh, man. Spring is out. It's getting hot. Oh god, California, man. All right, once price accepts outside the balance, it is likely to become imbalanced and seek new value, often the POC of an older balance area, right? So basically, if we move back up in Bitcoin, guess what? We're going back to 90, because 90,000 was where the old POC used to be. Not person of color, okay? Point of control. Oh my god. Anyway, rule number 4: if the price reacts strongly from POC, it can disrupt rule 1. Strong rejection from POC can prevent the full rotation to the other side of the balance. Rule 5: if time and volume build at the edge of a balance, price is likely to push through. When you see the market spending time at the boundary of a balance area, the volume is increasing, and that is often the setup for a genuine breakout rather than a failed auction. So you see, this stuff is so similar to, oh, it's unseasonably warm in the East Coast right now. Oh man, that's not a good sign. I don't think that's a good sign. I think we're gonna have problems then for the rest of the several years. Maybe crops will start failing. Have to look at the corn prices and cotton prices and soybeans. Yeah. So let me share this again. Let's go back to our Bitcoin example. So let's say this thing just stays close to 71 for the next week. Okay, maybe even over the weekend we see a lot of strength in this area, and then by Monday it'll break out. Okay, that's possible. So let me give you the Wyckoff stuff here. So this is the Wyckoff picture. That's why a lot of this stuff has so much similarities, you know. Blah 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 blah. Let me see. Okay. Beep. All right. Does this look familiar? Looks pretty familiar. Interesting, huh? Okay, let me get rid of this. Bye-bye. So, see, I didn't do nothing. This is just a generic schematic, but it looks very familiar. Huh. That's the Wyckoff. So, Richard D. Wyckoff, who spent all his time, wasting time, I guess, studying... Yeah, this is TradingView. Wasting time looking at charts, came up with this idea. There's a phase A, phase B, phase C, phase D. Huh. Looks pretty damn good. It matches quite well. So we could be in phase D. If this thing just zigzags here and then pushes through. If this thing, however, crashes, forget it. We're gonna go lower. So that's what happened here. You see this? This is what happened in January 14th. This was the failed push-up. And then after that, we went back down, and you could tell that this was probably where the fair market value was. So let me do this. So the red line was around 88,000, right? Close to 90. And that's what happened. This thing just went bleep. Once it completely broke down below this blue area, it just puked everywhere. It just completely puked. So below this 86 here, the bottom solid blue line here. So yeah, if it fails, if this thing fails right here, watch out. This might actually just reverse down, and we're going straight to 30,000 on Bitcoin. Oh my God! If it goes to 20 to 30,000, buy it. Okay, just buy it. But I don't know yet. I don't think that's gonna happen. So far, it's working the way it's supposed to work right here with the Wyckoff. Yeah, this is what we have to do. Are we in phase D? That's the question. What are we in phase D? Okay, let me see if I can copy paste this, and then, all right, let me copy to the clipboard, and I'll paste it in here for you, and then we can read it together. Okay, this is phase D, and let me get rid of the. Oh, come on. No transparency. Okay. Phase D. If we are correct in our analysis, what should follow is the consistent dominance of demand over supply. This is evidenced by a pattern of advances on widening price spreads and increasing volume, as well as reactions on smaller spreads and diminished volumes. During phase D, the price will move at least to the top of the trading range. So these reactions here in this phase are generally excellent places to initiate or add to profitable long positions. Okay, so take that, and then we go back to the auction market theory guy and see what he says. It should be similar, right? They should say the same thing. Yeah. Okay, right here. If time and volume build at the edge of a balance, price is likely to push through. When you see the market spending time at the boundary of a balance area and volume is increasing, that is often the setup for a genuine breakout rather than a failed auction. So we shall see. We shall see. Okay. All right, guys, that's enough. That's enough. That's enough for today. We will read the last part some other time. Some other time. And I'll repeat this over and over again anyway. Over. I'm glad I found this blog post too. Because when I first learned about this auction market theory, I had to like dig around and find multiple people's stuff. When am I back? Tomorrow, I guess. I mean, I'm done with this section. I have to go read. We have to read the book of Esther. This is what we're gonna do. We have to finish reading the book of Esther. Okay. I heard the U.S. is stocking up for Iran to last as long. I heard that too. Yeah, I heard that. I don't know. I don't know if it's true or not. We'll see. The Iranian propaganda on the U.S. side, the Western side, the pro Shah guys, they're definitely amped up and stuff. I also heard the Kurds were going in there, so this is gonna get drawn out for sure, man. This is gonna get drawn out for sure. Okay, nothing new in the earnings. I don't think anything changed. MRVL still up 15%, so we'll see if that holds tomorrow, if that's gonna keep the Nasdaq happy for a bit. But after that, there's no earnings. We're done. Friday morning, I think we have Brazilian. Yeah, Brazil. I think that's what's gonna report tomorrow. Brazilian Petroleo Brasileiro. Okay, so Brazilian oil and gas company. So definitely something. It's PBR, not Pabst Blue Ribbon. PBR will report tomorrow morning. That's it, guys. Costco reported, but I didn't see nothing in the after hours. So I guess Costco was fine, cool. Costco's cool, nothing bad. Yeah, a lot of Shaw bots. I know, man. There's so many of these bots. Dude, you got these dancing Persian girls all over the place. You're like, what the fuck is this shit? This is crazy. You guys are crazy. Oh, before we move on to that, let's discuss some ETFs. Okay? Yeah, before I forget, let's discuss that. I think that'll be important. So we're going to look at some ETFs. So, we have UwU. That's the one I've been talking about. But over this week, we haven't done so well because it follows a little bit not the correct, I guess the correct types of stocks, because it's not perfect, right? With XOP. XOP is actually very specialized in the stocks it selects, and only Gush, GUSH. Okay, so this is the one we're looking at here. GUSH follows that. The problem with GUSH with me, okay, is that it's only 2x. It used to be 3x before the COVID-19 shit happened, and then it went back down to 2x. And so it's like, damn it. So I've had to augment what I do with oil using UwU and NRGU and whatever. So right now, UwU this week followed more XLE rather than XOP. Is a problem. So energy has three main ETFs. When you look at energy composed of mainly natural gas and oil. So most of the energy sector is that. Very, very small parts of it has coal or solar or anything like that. They're rarely going to be in this type of ETF. So if we look at XLE, it's ExxonMobil, Chevron, ConocoPhillips, blah, 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 blah. You got Schlumberger, Kinder Morgan, yeah, Phillips 66, Baker Hughes, all this stuff, Occidental, Halliburton. Okay. Now, if we look at OIH, this one hasn't been doing so well. OIH, oil services, that means refineries. So this side of the oil and gas companies have done poorly this week. Okay, so Schlumberger and Baker Hughes, Halliburton are the top three here. When you look at XOP, look at how it's constructed. XOP has very little of this. It's more equal weighted. You see, it's not concentrated in Schlumberger, Baker Hughes, Halliburton. These haven't been doing well. And then so if you look at Gush follows the XOP. Now, if we look at UwU, that's not the case. That's the problem. UwU is not following that. So I don't know. I have to really look hard into how these things are constructed now, because if servicing, if a lot of the servicing side of the oil energy space doesn't improve, then I cannot recommend UwU anymore. I tell you to replace that with NRGU and Gush, half maybe. So we'll have to see. That's probably what's going to happen. Too bad. I'd rather have something easy, buy and hold, where I don't need to tell you to change things. But it might be that things get so complicated in the war, and how the oil is priced, and how this affects refineries, because refineries get affected differently, right? If they can't get enough Iranian crude oil, maybe they don't make as much money, because their refineries are tailored to certain crudes, and yeah, that affects them. So sucks. That really sucks. So this is UwU right here. ExxonMobil is 15%, Chevron's 15% basically, but it has a lot of Schlumberger here, 6%, right? And so, and you got some Baker Hughes at 3.5. So this is what's pulling it down. You got the Baker Hughes, you got the Schlumberger, you got the Halliburton at 3.24. You see, this is not like XOP. XOP has spreads out everything across the board. So that's why it performed very well this year. So it's well diversified and less cap weighted. Here you see with the ExxonMobil, Chevron, even Exxon I don't think did very well this week actually. So combine that with the Schlumberger, and so that's why. Ooh, I can't create my own portfolio and try to leverage that. I can't do that. Yeah, Schlumberger, yeah, Schlumberger. I just call it Schlumberger. I don't know. I think I used to interview for the company. They were looking for engineers. I just went there just to get some free stuff. They always have free stuff at the university career fairs. Yeah. So, anyhow. Yes, BBLs are range bound. Everything's range bound now. Okay, guys. Time to read the book of Schlumberger. No. We're reading the book of Esther. All right, I think we left off at chapter 5. And then we're going to read chapter 6. So I think we left off at the fact that Esther became the queen. That was chapters 1 through 3. And then chapters 4 through 6. The Mordecai kinds of guilt trips Esther to try to save the Jews, because they still don't know that Esther's a Jew, and she still talks to the king. And so now they plan a dinner for Haman, who hates the Jews for some reason. They never say why he hates them. They just say he hates them. I don't know. I only knew because I worked in the oil industry. Yeah. Schlumberger is pretty important. It's pretty big. Yeah, very big. All right, let me get something to drink. On that night, oh, let me change the music. Let me change the music. We got to change the music up here. On that night could not the king sleep, and he commanded to bring the book of records of the chronicles, and they were read before the king. And it was found written that Mordecai had told of Bigthana and Teresh, two of the king's chamberlains, the keepers of the door, who sought to lay hand on the king Assuerus. All right, great names there. And the king said, "What honor and dignity hath been done to Mordecai for this?" Then said the king's servants that ministered unto him, "There is nothing done for him." And the king said, "Who is in the court?" Now Haman was come into the outward court of the king's house to speak unto the king to hang Mordecai on the gallows that he had prepared for him. And the king's servants said unto him, "Behold, Haman standeth in the court." And the king said, "Let him come in." So Haman came in, and the king said unto him, "What shall be done unto the man whom the king delighteth to honor?" Now Haman thought in his heart, "To whom would the king delight to do honor more than to myself?" And Haman answered the king, "For the man whom the king delighteth to honor. Let the royal apparel be brought, which the king useth to wear, and the horse that the king rideth upon, and the crown royal, which is set upon his head. And let this apparel and horse be delivered to the hand of one of the king's most noble princes, that they may array the man withal, whom the king delighteth to honor, and bring him on horseback through the street of the city, and proclaim before him, Thus shall it be done to the man whom the king delighteth to honor." Then the king said to Haman, "Make haste, and take the apparel and the horse, as thou hast said, and do even so to Mordecai the Jew, that sitteth at the king's gate. Let nothing fail of all that thou hast spoken." Then took Haman the apparel and the horse, and arrayed Mordecai, and brought him on horseback through the city, through the street of the city, and proclaimed before him, "Thus shall it be done unto the man whom the king delighteth to honor." And Mordecai came again to the king's gate. But Haman hasteth to his horse mourning, and having his head covered. And Haman told Zeresh his wife and all his family everything that had befallen him. Then said his wise men and Zeresh his wife unto him, "If Mordecai be of the seed of the Jews, before whom thou hast begun to fall, thou shalt not prevail against him, but shalt surely fall before him." And while they were yet talking with him, came the king's chamberlains, and hasted to bring Haman unto the banquet that Esther had prepared. All right, he's going to the dinner party. Oh, I have a friend who got a scholarship to a mining engineering school, but ended up going to Chem E. Yeah, I think there's similarities between Chem E and mining engineering and all that stuff too. I don't know which is better, honestly. You know, Monty's a chemist, so, but Chem E is a next level to that. I think Chem E is probably the hardest of the engineering. You know, there's subfields that probably are harder than Chem E, but for the most part, in general, Chem E is harder. Yeah. Okay, because they have to take a lot of physical chemistry courses and stuff like that. Yeah. Okay, so the king and Haman came to banquet with Esther the queen. And the king said again unto Esther on the second day at the banquet of wine, "What is thy petition, Queen Esther? And it shall be granted thee. And what is thy request? And it shall be performed, even to the half of the kingdom." Then Esther the queen answered and said, "If I have found favor in thy sight, O king, and if it please the king, let my life be given me at my petition, and my people at my request. For we are sold, I and my people, to be destroyed, to be slain, and to perish. But if we had been sold for bondmen and bondwomen, I had held my tongue. although the enemy could not countervail the king's damage. Then the king Assuerus answered and said unto Esther the queen, Who is he and where is he that durst presume in his heart to do so? And Esther said, The adversary and enemy is this wicked Haman. Then Haman was afraid before the king and the queen. And the king, arising from the banquet of wine in his wrath, went into the palace garden. And Haman stood up to make request for his life to Esther the queen, for he saw that there was evil determined against him by the king. Then the king returned out of the palace garden into the place of the banquet of wine, and Haman was fallen upon the bed whereon Esther was. Then said the king, Will he force the queen also before me in the house? And the word went out of the king's mouth. They covered Haman's face. And Harbonath, one of the chamberlains, said before the king, Behold also the gallows 50 cubits high, which Haman had made for Mordecai, who spoken good for the king, standeth in the house of Haman. Then the king said, Hang him thereon. So they hanged Haman on the gallows that he had prepared for Mordecai. Then was the king's wrath pacified. Oh, great. Yes, yes. Hope everyone Purim was amazing. Yes, everyone's was amazing. I hope we all ate some nice. Anyway, yeah. Anyhow, let me continue on. Let's go. Chapter 8. Chapter 8. Let's go. Chapter 8. Here. Oh my God. All right. Here. Chapter 8. I know you guys are dying for the conclusion. On that day did the king Assuerus give the house of Haman, the Jews' enemy, unto Esther the queen, and Mordecai came before the king. For Esther had told what he was unto her. And the king took off his ring, which he had taken from Haman, and gave it unto Mordecai. And Esther set Mordecai over the house of Haman. And Esther spake yet again before the king, and fell down at his feet, and besought him with tears to put away the mischief of Haman the Agagite, and his device that he had devised against the Jews. Then the king held out the golden scepter toward Esther. So Esther arose and stood before the king, and said, If it please the king, and if I have favor in his sight, and the things seem right before the king, and I be pleasing in his eyes, let it be written to reverse the letters devised by Haman, the son of Hamadatha, the Agathite, which he wrote to destroy the Jews, which are in all the king's provinces. For how can I endure to see the evil that shall come unto my people? Or how can I endure to see the destruction of my kindred? Then the king Assuerus said unto Esther the queen, and to Mordecai the Jew, Behold, I have given Esther the house of Haman, and him they have hanged upon the gallows, because he laid his hand upon the Jews. Write ye also for the Jews, and it liketh you, in the king's name, and seal it with the king's ring. For the writing which is written in the king's name, and sealed with the king's ring, may no man reverse. Then were the king's scribes called at that time, in the 3rd month, that is the month Sivan, on the 23rd day thereof. And it was written according to all that Mordecai commanded unto the Jews, and to the lieutenants and the deputies and rulers of the provinces which are from India unto Ethiopia, 127 provinces, unto every province according to the writing thereof, and unto every people after their language, and to the Jews according to their writing, and according to their language. And he wrote in the king Assuerus' name, and sealed it with the king's ring, and sent letters by posts on horseback, and riders on mules, camels, and young dromedaries. Dromedaries are also camels, so that's interesting. They made a description there. So I wonder what the translation between the camels versus dromedaries are. Dromedaries are like the Central Asian camels, so I guess there was a distinction between the two. Wherein the king granted the Jews which were in every city, to gather themselves together, and to stand for their life, to destroy, to slay, and to cause to perish all the power of the people and province that would assault them, both little ones and women, and to take the spoil of them for a prey. Upon one day in all the provinces of King Assuerus, namely upon the 13th day of the 12th month, which is the month Adar, the copy of the writing for a commandment to be given in every province was published unto all people, and that the Jews should be ready against that day to avenge themselves on their enemies. So the posts that rode upon mules and camels went out, being hastened and pressed on by the king's commandment, and the decree was given at Shushan the palace. And Mordecai went out from the presence of the king in royal apparel of blue and white, and with a great crown of gold, and with a garment of fine linen and purple, and the city of Shushan rejoiced and was glad. The Jews had light and gladness and joy and honor, and in every province and in every city, whithersoever the king's commandment and his decree came, the Jews had joy and gladness, a feast and a good day, and many of the people of the land became Jews, for fear of the Jews fell upon them. Wait, what? Wait, huh? They converted? Hey, I didn't know about that. Best part at the sweet vengeance, yeah. Yeah, of course. So is this the prophecy here? Is this the prophecy? Oh, okay. All right. Now, in the 12th month, that is the month of Adar, on the 13th day of the same, when the king's commandment and his decree drew near to be put in execution, in the day that the enemies of the Jews hoped to have power over them, though it was turned to the contrary, that the Jews had ruled over them that hated them. The Jews gathered themselves together in their cities throughout all the provinces of the king Assuerus, to lay hand on such as sought their hurt, and no man could withstand them, for the fear of them fell upon all people. And all the rulers of the provinces, and the lieutenants, and the deputies, and officers of the king helped the Jews, because the fear of Mordecai fell upon them. For Mordecai was great in the king's house, and his fame went out throughout all the provinces, for this man Mordecai waxed greater and greater. Thus the Jews smote all their enemies with the stroke of the sword, and slaughtered, and destruction, and did what they could unto those that hated them. And in Shushan the palace the Jews slew and destroyed 500 men, and Parshandatha, and Dalphon, and Aspatha, and Poratha, and Adalia, and Aridatha, and Parmasha. Oh my God! And Arisai, and Aridai, and Vajjethatha, the 10 sons of Haman, the son of Hamathatha, and the enemies of the Jews slew they, but on the spoiled laid they not their hand. Man, this sounds so familiar. Oh. Is this happening right now? They killed the supreme leader. They got all his kids. You can see why Uncle H was fixated. Yeah, I see why. Yeah, definitely. Oh, yeah, I can see now. Anyhow. On that day, the number of those that were slain in Shushan the palace was brought before the king. And the king said unto Esther the queen, the Jews have slain and destroyed 500 men in Shushan the palace, and the 10 sons of Haman. What have they done in the rest of the king's provinces? Now what is thy petition? And it shall be granted thee, or what is thy request further? And it shall be done. Then said Esther, if it please the king, let it be granted to the Jews which are in Shushan to do tomorrow also according unto this day's decree, and let Haman's 10 sons be hanged upon this gallows. And the king commanded it so to be done, and the decree was given at Shushan, and they hanged Haman's 10 sons. For the Jews that were in Shushan gathered themselves together on the 14th day also of the month of Adar, and slew 300 men at Shushan, but on the prey they laid not their hand. But the other Jews that were in the king's provinces gathered themselves together, and stood for their lives, and had rest from their enemies, and slew of their foes 75,000. But they laid not their hands on the prey. On the 13th day of the month Adar, and on the 14th day of the same rested they, and made it a day of feasting and gladness. But the Jews that were in Shushan assembled together on the 13th day thereof, and on the 14th thereof, and on the 15th day of the same they rested, and made it a day of feasting and gladness. Therefore the Jews of the villages that dwelt in the unwalled towns made the 14th day of the month of Adar a day of gladness and feasting, and a good day, and of sending portions one to another. And Mordecai wrote these things, and sent letters unto all the Jews that were in all the provinces of the king Assuerus, both nigh and far, to stabilize this among them, that they should keep the 14th day of the month of Adar, and the 15th day of the same yearly, as the days wherein the Jews rested from their enemies, and the month which was turned unto them from sorrow to joy, and from mourning into a good day, that they should make them days of feasting and joy, and of sending portions one to another, and gifts to the poor. And the Jews undertook to do as they had begun, and as Mordecai had written unto them, because Haman the son of Hammedatha the Agathite, the enemy of all the Jews, had devised against the Jews to destroy them, and had cast Pur, that is, the lot, to consume them, and to destroy them. But when Esther came before the king, he commanded by letters that this wicked device which he devised against the Jews should return upon his own head, and that he and his sons should be hanged in the gallows. Wherefore they call these days Purim, after the name of Pur. Therefore, for all the words of this letter, and of that which they had seen concerning this matter, and which had come unto them, the Jews ordained, and took upon them, and upon their seed, and upon all such as joined themselves unto them, so as it should not fail, that they would keep these 2 days according to their writing, and according to their appointed time every year, and that these days should be remembered and kept throughout every generation, every family, every province, and every city, and that these days of Purim should not fail from among the Jews, nor the memorial of them perish from their seed. Then Esther the queen, the daughter of Abihail, and Mordecai the Jew wrote with all authority to confirm the second letter of Purim. And he sent the letter unto all the Jews to the 127 provinces of the kingdom of Assuerus, with words of peace and truth, to confirm these days of Purim in their times appointed, according to Mordecai the Jew and the Esther the queen had enjoined them, and as they had decreed for themselves and for their seed the matters of the fasting and their cry. And the decree of Esther confirmed these matters of Purim, and it was written in the book we are reading. I think he's next, huh? Yeah, the son of Komane. Oh man, Jesus, bro. I mean, I only read the Gospels. I've only read those. I've read Proverbs, I guess, but most of the Old Testament books I've tried to just ignore. I'm just like, oh man, it's just history and genealogy. I mean, there's some fun stuff, I'm sure. I don't know if you guys ever watched this NBC series. It only lasted one season. It was called Kings. Have you guys heard of this show? I thought that was pretty good. I was surprised they could make some kind of biblically inspired, modernized tale on prime time, but they tried to do it. So that was pretty good. So you can look it up, Kings on NBC. They probably don't have DVDs for it. All right, this is the last bit here. I don't know why this is a chapter, but here's your verses. And the king Assuerus laid a tribute upon the land and upon the isles of the sea, and all the acts of his power and of his might, and the declaration of the greatest of Mordecai, whereunto the king advanced him, Are they not written in the book of the chronicles of the kings of Media and Persia? For Mordecai the Jew was next unto King Assuerus, and great among the Jews, and accepted of the multitude of his brethren, seeking the wealth of his people, and speaking peace to all his seed. All right. Tommy Kings, never heard of it. Yeah, if you can find it, maybe King TL can review it instead of the Serbian. Serbian. Oh shit. Serbian. Okay. Let me see. Where can you watch it? I don't think it's on anywhere. Oh, it's on Roku. Oh, maybe you can watch it. Okay. It's on Roku. Okay, yeah, check it out. It's on Roku. It's on Roku. There you go. Kings, okay. You can watch it. You can watch it there on Roku. All right. A warrior faces political intrigue after winning the gratitude of his king, rescuing a prince. So it's basically David and Goliath. I thought it was pretty cool. I don't know. Maybe you guys who are Christians are getting sick of biblical tales. But for me, I never grew up on it, right? So it's kind of like, oh, this is fresh to me. It's fresh to me. But I know some of you guys probably go Sunday school and you're like, bleh, man, I'm tired of hearing the same tale over and over. These Babylonian fairy tales that are repackaged and shit. But Jeremy seems more like a Mordecai. Yeah, he kind of does, doesn't he? Yeah, he kind of does. So don't let him know that I said that. All right, guys. I will see you tomorrow, I guess. Maybe something exciting will happen finally, but it looks like only Tuesday into Wednesday was the most exciting part. Oil is still going up, though. I'm going to have to figure out if I would recommend UwU from now on, or do a split between NRGU and Gush and UwU or something like that. We'll have to see. And then I'll also have to review the portfolio. We'll have to check which of these stocks I'm going to kick off. There's a lot of problems right now. Okay, let me put this back up with the dollar. Okay, I was talking about the dollar yesterday, and it's still getting a lot of strength. Let me just play this video. Okay, before we continue on, let me play this video here. The dollar.
I was looking at this chart today, and they put on a little bit more data than here, but even this is showing to me just an uptrend.
Right, and if the dollar continues in this uptrend and gets stronger, probably become a headwind for gold. The other part is that this really does demonstrate that the dollar is starting to operate in this reserve currency status again, and the world is starting to show up and wanting to own dollars.
When you look at the chart that says over here at the beginning of 25, you definitely get the sense of the price moves easily. So there's some kind of this bearish, like they don't want the dollar, but then there is no continuation, and it holds on this level right here, which acted before as the resistance. We see the analog out of all of this causal smaller ranges at the bottom. There comes a move, they're diminishing. So we could move up. We're probably not going to move up like that aggressively and not with that much distance. But what if we just continue?
That's a big deal. If it was able to move up in the channel, that would be a very big deal.
All right, so let me show you the cycle stuff here. Look at the cycles of the dollar. It looks like we are in an uptrend for sure with the cycles. Oh man. Let me try to get this again. Oh, hold on. Let me play this other video then while you're waiting.
That gap up move was with kind of a tight body at that point, but was a test of the big climactic move up in late January. And so if it can't hold here and then start to go up again, this would be a natural place for there to be overhead supply that would stop the advance. But that could be a failing test right there of a pretty important climax. And the other thing that kind of goes with all this is that the dollar's been strong.
Same volume here as it was in this area right here. Look at the spreads here to the upside and look at this compressed spread. So a lot of supply is coming in. What's the reaction of the price to that incoming supply? The spread is increasing relative to the spread that came afterwards here on the same volume. So we are deteriorating demand, improving supply. And that's what Bruce is talking about, that as we come to this level here, supply comes in and it produces some kind of result. So Bruce, I'd be thinking still like we are in some kind of trading.
So this is exactly what I was telling you guys earlier. I think silver and gold is just going to go sideways for the rest of the year. And I think this confirms it. If the dollar is strengthening like it is, and we're seeing a lot of weakness with Mexico and South Brazil and South Korea. Like today it went down again. I see the Chinese stocks also getting hit pretty bad. So I think the dollar is getting way too strong for any of that stuff. So I think all of this stuff will have to be tabled until May at least. And I'll tell you why right here. Okay, finally get this thing going. All right, you can share that. And then we'll close out the day with this. So this is the dollar. All right, I'm using my cycle analyzer here. So if we're basing off of the 184-day cycle, then we are in an uptrend probably. So this thing is actually changing its trend. Like we're not going sideways anymore. If this thing breaks out, if the dollar breaks out, so this dollar futures index tracks the futures, DX. You can look up the ticker DX on the futures market. It's going to go up all the way in through July. So if we're actually going to break out here, we're not going to keep going sideways. Bam. It has a chance to fly up. And that makes sense, especially when we have a new Fed chair coming in. So, yeah, sounds kind of like Jack. Jack Talcott? Maybe we should pivot into stock market talk. I don't know. It's like House of David on Prime was pretty good. Oh, there's another show? Oh, yeah, I haven't kept up with all the recent stuff. Okay, I'll look it up. His Ghetto Points of View. Cool. Something else to watch. I just don't have much time to watch things anymore. Yeah. I'm just watching crap on YouTube. Sadly, that's my entertainment. So far, it's consumed everything. Okay. All right. I'll see you tomorrow, maybe. Who knows? But another thing, too, is if you're interested in watching some drama stuff with the boy, you can always follow Napstar, Anita Bong Hit. Okay, and he's gonna have the some kind of Boyd open panel on Saturday or Sunday, and I don't know if Universal Jones might have a panel on Saturday, so we'll see. So Universal Jones and Be Better Network. Okay, Be Better Network. Let me give you links. Be Better Network. Okay, you can go here, Universal Jones. So maybe we'll have something on Saturday over there, and then on Sunday go to Anita Bong Hit. Okay, you see the scrolling banner I got here. Yeah, I have the link directly to the thing, so you can subscribe to both Be Better Network on YouTube and Napstar, which is Anita Bong Hit, ANIDABONGHIT. Are you still funding Dead Man? Yeah, I'm pretty much still funding Dead Man. It looks like Plate of Wings is gone, so I have to pick up the slack. I wanted to fund less and less because Melanie, the TK's girl that got brought in, she's helping out, and then I thought Plate of Wings was doing more, and then I didn't need to do more. But it looks like if Plate of Wings is out of this sector, then I have to step it up again. We'll see. Yeah, we'll see. It sucks. I'd rather have it more democratized. You know, you want more people to donate instead of like having it concentrated with 1-2 people. It's kind of like, it makes it worse when one guy controls the show. You see, yeah. So you don't want that. You don't want one guy controlling the show. You see what happened with Damius and the Thorpes, right? So, yeah. All right. I'll see you around. Toodles.